the day I died was remarkably ordinary. That's what haunts me most about it now, not the screaming tires or the shattering glass, but how utterly mundane the morning had been. Coffee from the corner shop. A text to my husband about dinner plans. A quick call with my sister about Mom's birthday gift. Then everything went black. My name is Audrey Blackwell, and 3 years ago, I was declared dead. Except I wasn't. The taxi I'd been riding in plunged off a cliff along the Northern California coastline during a record-breaking storm. The driver's body washed up 3 days later. Mine never did, or so everyone believed. They held a funeral. Planted a tree in my memory. My husband, Marcus, eventually packed away my clothes, donated my books, and started dating my best friend. Life moved on without me. And now, standing across the street from what used to be our home, I watched Marcus through the window, his arm around Vanessa's shoulders as they laughed at something on TV. My replacement looked comfortable in my space, wearing what might have been my favorite sweater. The irony wasn't lost on me, I was literally the ghost at the feast. Taking a deep breath, I crossed the street, each step heavier than the last. In my hand, I clutched a small envelope containing the only proof of my identity, a DNA test matching dental records filed by the small village in Colombia where I'd spent the last 3 years recovering from traumatic amnesia. It had taken months of therapy to remember who I was, and several more to find my way back to San Francisco. Part of me had hoped Marcus would sense my return, that some cosmic connection would alert him to my presence in the city. But real life isn't a fairy tale. And my husband had moved on. I pressed the doorbell, our doorbell, and waited, my heart thundering so loudly I was certain they could hear it through the door. Footsteps approached. The porch light flickered on. The door swung open, and Marcus's familiar face appeared, his expression shifting from casual welcome to utter disbelief. "Hi, Marcus," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's me. I'm not dead." His face drained of color. He gripped the doorframe as if he might collapse. "Audrey," he gasped, the word emerging strangled and raw. Behind him, Vanessa appeared, curiosity on her face quickly morphing to shock. "That's not possible," she whispered, hand flying to her mouth. "You're dead. We buried you." "Not exactly," I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. "You buried an empty casket." The world tilted suddenly, and Marcus stumbled backward. Vanessa caught him, her eyes never leaving my face, as if I might vanish if she blinked. "This isn't happening," Marcus muttered. "I'm hallucinating. Or dreaming." "You're not," I said, extending the envelope. "I can explain everything. May I come in?" He stared at me, unmoving, unblinking. "Marcus," Vanessa whispered, shaking him gently. "Say something." When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. 3 years. You've been gone for 3 years. "I know," I said, the weight of those lost years heavy in my chest. "I'm sorry. I didn't know who I was until recently." He swallowed hard, then stepped aside, the gesture mechanical. As I crossed the threshold of what used to be my home, the familiar scent hit me, pine and cinnamon, Marcus's favorite candle. Some things hadn't changed. But so much had. The living room furniture had been rearranged. The wall that once displayed my photography now showcased abstract paintings, Vanessa's work, I assumed. And on the mantel, where our wedding photo once stood, there was a new picture, Marcus and Vanessa on a beach, sunset gleaming on their smiling faces. I tried not to stare, but Vanessa noticed. "I'll make coffee," she said abruptly, fleeing to the kitchen. Marcus motioned awkwardly to the couch. Sit. Please. I perched on the edge of what used to be my favorite reading spot, now adorned with throw pillows I didn't recognize. I don't know where to begin, I said. The beginning would be nice, he replied, his voice steadier now but distant. Professional almost, like he was interviewing a stranger. In many ways, I supposed I was. I handed him the envelope. DNA confirmation. Medical records. It's all there. He took it but didn't open it. Audrey. I was found washed up on a beach 50 miles south of the crash site, I began, the rehearsed story spilling out. Severe head trauma. No identification. The local fishermen took me to their village. The nearest hospital was hours away, and the storm had washed out the roads. Marcus's eyes never left my face as I explained how I'd spent months in a coma, then woken with no memory. How the village doctor had done his best with limited resources. How I'd slowly learned to speak again, to walk, to function as a person with no past. They called me Lucia, I said, smiling faintly at the memory. After their patron saint. In the kitchen, I could hear Vanessa moving around, opening and closing cabinets with unnecessary force. When did you start remembering? Marcus asked, still clutching the unopened envelope. Fragments at first. About 8 months ago. A woman's face, my mother's. The Golden Gate Bridge at sunset. Your voice. His jaw tightened at that. A visiting doctor recognized my condition and arranged for me to see a specialist in Bogota. That's when the real work began. Recovering my identity piece by piece. From the kitchen, the sound of breaking glass made us both jump. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her face flushed. Sorry, she said tightly. Dropped a mug. It's okay, Marcus and I said simultaneously, then glanced at each other, the painful familiarity hanging between us. I found my way to the American Embassy 2 months ago, I continued, pretending the interruption hadn't happened. The process of confirming my identity, getting a temporary passport, it all took time. Marcus finally opened the envelope, scanning the documents with the focused attention of someone desperate to solve a puzzle. Why didn't you call? He asked suddenly, looking up. Once you knew who you were? The question hit me like a physical blow. I tried. The number was disconnected. We moved, Vanessa supplied from the doorway. Last year. And I thought it would be cruel to call out of the blue after so long. To say, surprise, I'm not dead over the phone. Marcus laughed, a harsh, broken sound. As opposed to showing up on our doorstep? I didn't know what else to do, I admitted. The silence stretched between us, filled with 3 years of separate lives and unshared experiences. I need some air, Marcus said abruptly, standing. He paused at the door, not looking back. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I need to process this. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt louder than a slam. Left alone with Vanessa, my former best friend, now wearing my husband's ring, I braced myself for anger, accusations, tears. Instead, she sat down across from me, her face a careful mask. You look different, she said finally. I touched my hair self-consciously, once shoulder-length and blonde, now cropped short and returned to its natural brown. The sun in Colombia. And I lost weight during recovery. She nodded, her eyes searching my face. It's really you, isn't it? Yes. I thought I was hallucinating when I saw you. Like my guilt had finally manifested. Guilt? I echoed. Vanessa looked away. For being in love with your husband. For being happy you were gone. The words struck like daggers, but I kept my expression neutral. You were my best friend, Vanessa. I wouldn't have wanted Marcus to be alone forever. That's very noble of you, she said, a hint of bitterness creeping into her tone. But we both know it's more complicated than that. Before I could respond, the front door opened again. Marcus returned, his face still pale but more composed. I called Dr. Brenner, he said, addressing neither of us specifically. She's coming over. And I called your parents, Audrey. My parents. In the chaos of confronting Marcus, I'd almost forgotten about them. They're on their way, he continued. They were, shocked doesn't begin to cover it. I nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by the reality of my situation. I'd spent so long focusing on finding my way back that I hadn't fully considered what my return would mean for everyone who'd grieved me and moved on. I should probably go, I said, standing. This is a lot to process. I'm staying at the Meridian Hotel on Market Street. Room 412. Go? Marcus repeated. You can't just drop a bomb like this and leave. I think that's exactly what she should do, Vanessa interjected, her composure cracking. We need time, Marcus. This isn't normal. People don't come back from the dead. I wasn't dead, I reminded her quietly. You were to us, she exploded, tears finally spilling. Do you have any idea what we went through? What he went through? I flinched but held my ground. I'm sorry for what you both experienced. But I didn't exactly choose to have amnesia in a remote Colombian village. Marcus stepped between us, hands raised. Enough. Both of you. He turned to me, his eyes haunted. Stay. Please. Your parents will be devastated if they arrive and you're gone. The thought of my parents, the pain they must have endured, and the shock they were about to experience, made my decision for me. All right, I said. I'll stay until they get here. An awkward silence followed, the three of us frozen in this impossible tableau. I'll make fresh coffee, Vanessa finally said, disappearing back into the kitchen. Left alone with Marcus, I searched for something to say that wouldn't sound trivial or insufficient. You redecorated, I managed lamely. He glanced around as if seeing the room for the first time. Vanessa's influence. She thought it would help. To change things. To erase me, I said, the words out before I could stop them. His eyes snapped to mine. That's not fair, Audrey. We thought you were dead. We mourned you. He broke off, voice cracking. I identified what they thought were your remains. Shame washed over me. I'm sorry. You're right. That was unfair. Another silence, heavier this time. Are you married? I asked suddenly, nodding toward the gold band on his finger. He looked down at it, as if surprised to find it there. Yes. 6 months ago. The confirmation, though expected, still felt like a blow. Congratulations. Don't, he said sharply. Don't congratulate me. Don't pretend this is normal. What would you prefer? That I rail against fate? Demand you leave her? None of this is anyone's fault, Marcus. He ran a hand through his hair, shorter now than I remembered, with streaks of gray at the temples that hadn't been there before. How can you be so calm? Walking in here, seeing us together. I've had months to prepare for this possibility, I said quietly. Finding you married was painful, but not surprising. Especially not to Vanessa. His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I chose my next words carefully. You two always had a connection. Even when I was around. That's not, he began, then stopped himself. We didn't get together until more than a year after your disappearance. I wasn't accusing you of anything. Weren't you? His voice was low, tightly controlled. No, I insisted, even as a treacherous voice in my head whispered, weren't you, though? The doorbell rang, saving us from further conversation. Dr. Brenner, Marcus's therapist, I presumed, arrived first, a tall woman with kind eyes and a clinical gaze that assessed me immediately. She asked questions, examined my scars, reviewed my documents with professional detachment. This is extraordinary, she concluded. But not unprecedented. Cases of fugue states following trauma, especially with physical injuries affecting memory, they're rare but documented. Her validation seemed to calm Marcus somewhat, as if having a professional confirm I wasn't an imposter made my existence easier to accept. My parents arrived 20 minutes later. My mother took one look at me and crumpled, my father catching her before she hit the floor. When she recovered enough to approach me, her hands trembled as she touched my face, my hair, my shoulders, as if confirming I was solid, real. My baby, she kept whispering. My baby girl. My father stood back, tears streaming silently down his weathered face. He'd aged a decade in the 3 years I'd been gone. How? He asked simply. So I told the story again, watching their faces move from disbelief to wonder to joy mixed with lingering shock. Through it all, Vanessa remained at the periphery, her expression unreadable. As my parents embraced me, crying and laughing almost hysterically, she slipped upstairs without a word. Marcus noticed too, his eyes following her retreat before returning to my tearful reunion. The conflict was written plainly on his face, joy at my miraculous survival warring with the impossible situation it created. Dr. Brenner eventually suggested my parents take me back to their hotel. This has been overwhelming for everyone, she said diplomatically. Some space might be beneficial. My mother looked ready to protest, unwilling to let me out of her sight now that she had me back, but my father nodded in understanding. We'll come for you tomorrow, I told Marcus as I prepared to leave. To continue figuring this out. He nodded, distracted, his eyes darting toward the stairs. Tomorrow. As I walked out with my parents, leaving the house that was no longer my home, I glanced back one last time. Marcus stood in the doorway, lost and bewildered, torn between the wife he'd buried and the one waiting upstairs. I turned away, wondering if coming back had been a mistake after all. My parents' hotel suite became my sanctuary for the next few days. They wouldn't let me out of their sight, alternating between tears of joy and barrages of questions about my lost years. Their love was overwhelming, suffocating at times, but I endured it gladly. They'd thought I was dead. A little smothering seemed a small price to pay for their happiness. But as the initial shock wore off, practical matters emerged. I was legally dead. My bank accounts had been closed, my life insurance paid out, my identity essentially erased from all systems. We'll need to petition the court, my father explained, his lawyer's mind already cataloging the steps. Death certificate reversal, reinstatement of your social security number. It's complicated, but not impossible. And there's the matter of your assets, my mother added hesitantly. Your share of the house, your investments. The things that had gone to Marcus when I died. The complications were endless, rippling outward like stones dropped in a still pond. On the third day, Marcus called. We need to talk, he said, his voice strained. Properly. without an audience. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. San Francisco had changed in 3 years, new buildings rising where vacant lots had once stood, familiar landmarks replaced with gleaming shops and restaurants. I arrived first, claiming a corner table where I could watch the door. When Marcus entered, I was struck again by the subtle changes in him, the way he carried himself, more rigid than the easy grace I remembered. The new lines around his eyes and mouth. The absence of the half-smile that used to appear automatically when he saw me. "You cut your hair," he said as he sat down, an echo of Vanessa's first observation. I touched it self-consciously. It was practical. In the village. He nodded, fingers drumming nervously on the table. "I've consulted a lawyer. About our situation. So have my parents." Another nod, almost relieved. "Good. That's good. There's a process for this, apparently. Not a common one, but people occasionally come back from the dead," I finished wryly. A ghost of a smile flickered across his face. "Apparently." The server came for our order, tea for me, black coffee for him. I noted he still took it with no sugar, no cream. Some habits persisted. "How's Vanessa?" I asked when we were alone again. His expression shuddered. "Struggling. This is difficult for her." "For all of us," I corrected gently. "Yes." He clenched and unclenched his hand, a nervous tick I didn't remember. "Audrey, I need to ask, what do you want?" "For me? From this?" The question caught me off guard, though it shouldn't have. I'd spent months imagining our reunion, but always in vague, emotional terms, the joy of reconnection, the relief of coming home. I hadn't allowed myself to consider the practical aftermath. "I don't know," I admitted. "I didn't expect to find you married. To Vanessa, of all people." Pain flashed across his face. "I mourned you. For a long time. Vanessa helped me through it, as a friend, at first. It evolved slowly. I never intended." "I'm not blaming you," I interrupted. "You thought I was dead. You had every right to move on. But now you're not," he said simply. "Dead, I mean. And everything's complicated." I sipped my tea, buying time. "Legally, I'm still your wife. Our marriage was never dissolved by death, since I didn't actually die. And legally, I'm also married to Vanessa," he pointed out. "Which makes me a bigamist, technically. Through no fault of my own." The absurdity of it struck me suddenly, and a laugh escaped before I could stop it. God, what a mess. After a moment's hesitation, he laughed too, a brief, strained sound, but genuine. For a moment, we were just Marcus and Audrey again, sharing the dark humor that had once been our private language. But reality reasserted itself quickly. "One of the marriages will have to be annulled," he said soberly. The lawyer was clear about that. "And which one do you want it to be?" I asked, the question hanging between us like a live wire. Marcus stared into his coffee, avoiding my eyes. "That's not a fair question." "None of this is fair," I countered. "But it's our reality now." He looked up, his expression tormented. "I loved you, Audrey. God knows I did. But you were gone. I grieved you. I lived through that pain and came out the other side. With Vanessa." Each word was a dagger, but I forced myself to nod calmly. "I understand." "Do you?" he challenged. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you expect me to just pick up where we left off." As if 3 years haven't passed. As if I haven't built a new life. I don't expect that, I insisted, though a small, selfish part of me had indeed hoped for exactly that miracle. But I can't pretend I don't still have feelings for you. He closed his eyes briefly, pain etched in every line of his face. I don't know what to do with that information. Neither do I admitted. I needed you to know. We sat in silence, the weight of our impossible situation pressing down on us both. What about what you want? He asked finally. I considered the question carefully. What did I want? The answer had seemed so clear when I was fighting to regain my memories, to find my way back to San Francisco. But now, faced with the reality of Marcus's new life, my certainty wavered. I want to exist again, I said slowly. Legally, officially. I want my life back, not necessarily our marriage, if you don't. I trailed off, unable to finish the thought. If I choose Vanessa, he supplied quietly. I nodded, throat tight. And if I don't? He asked, his voice barely audible. If I choose you? The question hung between us, charged with possibility and pain. Then we try again, I whispered. Knowing it won't be easy. Knowing we've both changed. Knowing we'd be hurting Vanessa terribly. He nodded slowly, absorbing this. I need time. To think. To talk to Vanessa. Of course. As we prepared to leave, Marcus hesitated. There's something else you should know. The gravity in his tone made me brace myself. Vanessa's pregnant. 3 months. The world tilted beneath me. Oh. Yeah. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. So, it's complicated. Complicated. The understatement of the century. Congratulations, I managed, the word tasting like ash. He nodded once, sharply, then walked away without another word. I remained at the table long after he'd gone, trying to absorb this new reality. Vanessa was carrying Marcus's child. My husband, legally still my husband, was starting a family with my best friend. The future I'd clung to during my long recovery, the hope that had sustained me through months of painful therapy and confusing memory fragments, it crumbled around me like a sandcastle at high tide. For the first time since washing up on that Colombian beach, I wondered if it might have been better to stay dead after all. The legal proceedings moved faster than expected, given the extraordinary circumstances. My resurrection became something of a minor media sensation, not front-page news, but enough to warrant a small article in the Chronicle and a segment on the local news. Marcus's second marriage was quietly annulled, the court accepting that he had married Vanessa in good faith, believing his first wife was deceased. Our original marriage remained valid, though Marcus immediately filed for divorce, a decision I didn't contest. My parents were devastated when I told them I wouldn't be fighting for my marriage. But he's your husband, my mother insisted. You loved each other. He should be overjoyed you're alive, not running back to her. She's pregnant, Mom, I reminded her gently. They're starting a family. I won't tear that apart. But your family ended 3 years ago, I finished firmly. When that taxi went off the cliff. Privately, the decision was tearing me apart. I still loved Marcus, the memory of him had been what kept me going during those dark months of recovery. But I couldn't ignore the reality before me, he had moved on. He had built a new life. And while some small, selfish part of me had hoped he would choose me despite everything, I knew it was an impossible ask. A child changed everything. As my legal resurrection progressed, assets being untangled, accounts reinstated, identity slowly rebuilt, I began considering what would come next. San Francisco held too many painful memories now. Perhaps it was time for a fresh start. I was researching job opportunities in Seattle when Marcus called again. "Can we meet?" he asked, his voice tired. "There's something I need to tell you. In person." We chose a park this time, neutral ground with open space and fresh air. I spotted him on a bench near the fountain, his posture rigid, hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat beside him, leaving careful space between us. "Of course." I studied his face, noting the dark circles beneath his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "How are you?" "Terrible," he admitted with a hollow laugh. "I haven't slept properly in weeks." I nodded, understanding all too well. "The divorce papers are nearly ready. My lawyer says it should be straightforward, given the circumstances." That's actually why I wanted to talk to you." Something in his tone made me pause. "Is there a problem?" He shifted to face me directly. "Vanessa lost the baby." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with grief. "Marcus, I'm so sorry," I said, instinctively reaching for his hand before stopping myself. I can't imagine." "It was early enough that we hadn't told many people," he continued, staring at the fountain. "Just family, close friends. The doctor says it happens all the time. Nothing anyone did wrong." "How is she doing?" "Not well." He rubbed his face, exhaustion evident in every movement. "She's staying with her sister in Portland." "Needed space," she said. "And you?" I asked softly. He finally looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed and haunted. "I don't know who I am anymore, Audrey. Husband to a dead wife who isn't dead. Husband to a second wife whose marriage has been erased. Almost father to a child who'll never be born." His voice broke on the last words. Without thinking, I took his hand. This time, he didn't pull away. "I'm so sorry," I repeated, inadequate but sincere. We sat in silence for several minutes, the sound of the fountain filling the space between us. "Vanessa thinks it's karma," he said eventually. "The universe punishing us for building our happiness on your tragedy." "That's ridiculous," I said firmly. "What happened to your baby has nothing to do with me coming back. It's a terrible, cruel coincidence." He nodded, but his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. "When we thought you were dead, everything made sense. Our grief, our finding comfort in each other. It felt blessed, somehow. Like you would have approved." "I would have," I assured him, though the words cost me. "You were both important to me. I would have wanted you to find happiness together." "And now?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "Now I want what's best for everyone," I said carefully. "Including Vanessa. You still love her, don't you?" His hesitation spoke volumes. "Marcus?" "I do," he admitted. "But seeing you again, it's like a wound being reopened. Feelings I thought were resolved suddenly aren't anymore." Hope flickered in my chest, unwelcome but undeniable. "What are you saying?" "I don't know." He pulled his hand away, running it through his hair in frustration. "That's the problem. I don't know what I'm feeling or what I want. Everything's upside down." I took a steadying breath. "The divorce is still the right move. Whatever else happens." "Is it?" he challenged. "Maybe we should pause. Take time to figure things out." "And what about Vanessa?" I asked quietly. "She's your wife now, Marcus. Legally annulled or not. She's grieving. Pain flashed across his face. I know. God, I know. She deserves better than this mess. So do you, I said gently. So do I. He nodded slowly. I keep thinking about what Dr. Brenner said, that we all need space to process this. But how do you process something so impossible? One day at a time, I offered, the platitudes sounding hollow even to my own ears. Look, I've been thinking about leaving San Francisco. Making a fresh start somewhere else. His head snapped up. Leaving? But you just got back. I came back to a life that doesn't exist anymore, I pointed out. My job is gone. Our home is yours and Vanessa's now. Most of my friends have moved on. Maybe I should too. Where would you go? Seattle, maybe. Or Denver. Somewhere I can rebuild. Something like panic flashed in his eyes. Don't go. Not yet. I studied his face, trying to understand what he was asking of me. Marcus. I know it's selfish, he interrupted. I know I have no right to ask you to stay. But I need more time. Time for what? I asked, though I feared I already knew the answer. To figure out what I want. Who I want to be with. And there it was, the choice I'd told myself I wouldn't force upon him. The impossible decision between the wife he'd buried and the one who had helped him heal. That's not fair, I said softly. To any of us. None of this is fair, he echoed, repeating my words from the cafe. But it's our reality now. I stood up, needing distance, needing air. I can't be part of some contest, Marcus. I won't do that to Vanessa. Or to myself. He rose too, reaching for me. That's not what I'm asking. Isn't it? I stepped back. You want time to decide between us. Like we're two job offers or cars you're test driving. That's not. It is, I insisted. And I understand why. I do. But I can't wait in limbo while you make up your mind. The hurt in his eyes was palpable, but I forced myself to continue. I spent 3 years fighting to find my way back to my life. To you. But that life is gone now. You've built something new with Vanessa. Something real and valuable. What we had was real too, he argued. It was, I agreed. And part of me will always love you for it. But I won't be the other woman in my own marriage, Marcus. I can't. He flinched as if I'd struck him. That's not what this is. It feels a lot like it from where I'm standing. I took another step back. I'm going ahead with the divorce. And I'm leaving town once it's finalized. You should focus on healing with Vanessa. And if I can't, he asked, his voice breaking. If I realize it's you I want? The question cut deep, stirring the hope I'd been trying desperately to suppress. But I forced myself to be stronger than that feeling. Then you'll have to find me, I said simply. But only if you're absolutely certain. Only if you've given your marriage to Vanessa every chance to heal first. I turned and walked away, each step heavier than the last. Behind me, I heard him call my name once, but I didn't look back. Some ghosts, I was learning, were better left to rest. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday, exactly 4 months after my return from the dead. I signed the papers in my lawyer's office, the finality of the moment both crushing and strangely liberating. You're officially a living, single woman again, my lawyer joked weakly. I managed a smile. Fresh start. My apartment was already packed, my new job in Denver secured. I'd start in 2 weeks, enough time to drive cross-country, stopping to see places I'd always wanted to visit. The Grand Canyon. Monument Valley. Places where the vastness would make my problems seem appropriately small. My parents were devastated about my move but had gradually accepted it was necessary. "You'll visit often?" my mother had asked tearfully. "Of course," I promised. "And you'll come to Denver. The mountains are beautiful." My last night in San Francisco, I walked along the waterfront, saying goodbye to the city that had once been my home. The fog rolled in, shrouding the Golden Gate Bridge in mist, giving everything a dreamy, otherworldly quality. Appropriate, I thought, for a ghost's farewell. A figure materialized from the fog ahead, and my heart stuttered as I recognized the familiar silhouette. "Marcus?" He approached slowly, hands in his pockets. "Your mother told me you were leaving tomorrow." "Yes." I wrapped my coat tighter against the chill. "First thing in the morning." He nodded, looking out at the bay. "I've been trying to write you a letter. 4 weeks. Something to explain everything. But the words never came out right." "You didn't need to explain anything," I said gently. "I understand." "Do you?" he asked, finally meeting my eyes. "Because I'm not sure I do." A seagull cried overhead, the sound mournful in the misty air. "Vanessa's staying in Portland," he said after a moment. "Permanently. We're getting divorced." The news shocked me, though perhaps it shouldn't have. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" His tone wasn't accusatory, merely curious. "Yes," I said honestly. "I never wanted to cause either of you pain." "You didn't." We were both there the day she lost the baby. We both heard the heartbeat stop. Something broke between us in that moment. He paused, struggling for words. "It wasn't your fault. But it made us realize we'd built our relationship on shared grief. Once that changed, once you came back, the foundation cracked." I didn't know what to say to that, so I remained silent. "I'm not telling you this to change your plans," he continued. "I don't expect you to stay, or to pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. We're different people now." "Yes," I agreed softly. "We are." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small object that glinted in the dim light. "My wedding ring. I kept this," he admitted. "Even after the funeral. I couldn't bear to part with it." He held it out, not offering it back, just showing me. "I thought it might help you. In Denver. For closure." I stared at the ring, memories flooding back, the day he proposed, the way the sunlight had caught the diamond as he slipped it onto my finger. The promises we'd made, so earnestly, believing we had a lifetime to keep them. "Keep it," I said, closing his fingers around it. "As a reminder."